Hello, this is Gary and welcome back to this video series on leadership and development. Before we jump into the next topic, which you saw there is going to be accountability. I wanted to just mention real quick that this series and the messages and the topics covered in this are not for the faint of heart. And if you're looking for a get rich quick or some kind of sympathy or some shortcut on how to do all this stuff, this isn't it. This is some tough love. It's a tough situation, and to make it through this and do it consistently and sustain this is not easy. It takes a daily focus on these topics in these particular areas. So without further ado, let's jump into accountability. All right, so let's just jump right into the topic for today. As we mentioned earlier, it's accountability for today. And just as a quick review, let's look at the other topics that we'll be continuing on in the weeks to come. So next week will be focus on yourself, and then after that it'll be blind spots and filters, giving and receiving feedback, personal finances, asking for a raise, relationship with your boss, eliminating stress points, Lean and Six Sigma, and professionalism. Some of these topics we may come back to and dig in more detail if we need to. We may add additional topics as we go. So the first thing that you need to do to be able to recognize that it's your responsibility to be 100% accountable for your future success is to take a look at your background. And so let's just kind of jump into that a little bit. So some of the things that happen to us in our background and childhood as we're growing up is some of the ones I'm going to mention here. So maybe you grew up very poor. Maybe you grew up very rich. Maybe you have learning disabilities. You could have grown up in an abusive home, exposed to alcohol or drug addiction at an early age. You could have been abandoned or adopted. You had a parent or a close family member die at an early age. Or your parents may be divorced or separated. And I'm guessing if I ask the question of, all right, all you out there watching this video, raise your hand if you had more than one of these things happen to you at some point in your childhood or in your life. And I think the answer is almost all of us would raise their hand that at least one, if not several of these things have happened to us with varying degrees of severity and varying degrees of difficulty. But the reality of it is this is called life. These things happen. So when these things happen to us in our childhood, what happens? What effect does it have? It causes behavioral weaknesses that manifest themselves in different ways. And some of those weaknesses that are the result of some of our childhood is insecurity, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, being judgmental or critical of other people, having negative thought patterns, fear of failure, meaning failure is not an option, and that because of that, you don't take chances, you don't trust things, you don't trust people because you're afraid to fail. And you don't trust others. At some point along the way, maybe when you were a child, if you were abandoned or in some business deal or in some relationship, somebody burned you, somebody broke a trust, and that leads you to not trust other people. So the next step along the way is, so you have the issues that happen as a child or in your life, and those lead to the behaviors and kind of the personality traits that we carry with us, and often lead to the situation that we're currently in. And I wanted to just say real quick that the things on the previous slide that we're talking about here, this series is not about helping you individually with each of those. This series is about helping you figure out which one of these you have, and the recognition that you have it, and what caused it, and that in order for you to be accountable and be successful in the future, you have to come to grips with it, own it, embrace it, accept it, and grow and develop and move on. So what does all that mean? What does it cause? Well, here are just some examples. Struggling at work, poor relationship with your boss or coworkers, you don't get along with people you work with, or you don't like the people you work with. You don't like your job or the career that you've chosen. There's a lot of people out there that wake up every day and hate their job. They don't want to go to work. And guess what? If you hate your job, guess how successful you're going to be in that? Probably not very. You don't make enough money, meaning you've gone to school, you've gotten an education, you've got 15, 20, 30 years of experience, yet you feel like you're not making the kind of money that you should be making given where you're at in your career and your education and experience and that kind of thing. You have multiple stress points in your life, which are the result of many of these other things that get compounded. You have significant financial issues and significant debt. You have poor marital or family relationships with your siblings or your children or your parents. You're overweight, you're in poor health, and you have low energy. So these are all things that people deal with and people struggle with, and the key to unlocking your future success and achieving your maximum potential is to figure out which ones of these things you have and you struggle with and how they relate to your behaviors, which in turn relates to your childhood upbringing and those kind of things. And again, I just want to point out that if you have any of these, particularly the weaknesses and the childhood issues, you need to figure out what they are, get some help, seek some counseling, and work on fixing those issues. But because until you fix those underlying foundational issues, you're never going to be able to achieve your maximum potential, which you'll hear me repeat that over and over and over again. So here's some questions. All right, you find yourself in this bad situation. You're struggling with a lot of things. You're not making the money you're wanting to make. You have some behavioral issues. The question I'm asking you is, what are you doing about it? Are you focused on it? Are you working on it? Do you even know it? Are you working on, do you make it a focus on a daily basis to improve the relationships with those people around you, with the people you work with your family members? Do you focus on improving your finances if you're in significant financial debt? And again, this is not a get-rich program here, okay? That's not about that. This is not about making a lot of money and getting rich and extravagant things. This is about living a normal, reasonable life, okay? That's what this is about. Do you focus on and think about the things that are causing you stress in your life? And do you make a specific, on-purpose effort to eliminate those stress points so you can free yourself up? Free yourself up to, again, achieve your maximum potential. Do you focus on improving your health? I mean, you're looking at a guy that struggles with weight. It's a daily, something I think about and work on a daily basis. And you know what? Some days, some periods of time, some years, I kick its butt. Other times, it kicks my butt. But the reality of it is, it's something I know about, and it's something I'm working on, and it'll always be a work in progress. And I wake up every day working to try to solve that. So, what is it? Accountability. The very first step in solving all of the problems that you have is to accept the accountability for them. Because as long as you're always blaming the problems and the situation that you're in on someone else, or your childhood, or your behavioral weaknesses, or your boss, or your family members, you're never really going to be able to embrace and accept and solve those problems so that you can move forward. So you own them. It's your problem. You have to figure out how to fix them. That's not to say that you can't get help, but you own the responsibility to seek out the help and to recognize that you have them. Guess what? We all have them. And the people that end up ultimately being successful are the ones that are brave enough and strong enough and have the courage to say, I have it. I'm a mean person. I have bad relationships. I'm in significant financial debt. I have it. I need some help. What am I going to do about that? Let's take a look real quick just to kind of wrap things up and continue to move forward here, is the definition of accountability. What does that really mean? And I think this is a good one. This is not necessarily the Webster Dictionary version of it, but this is a good interpretation that's relevant for this video. The personal choice to rise above one's circumstances and demonstrate the ownership necessary to achieve the desired results. So it's about ownership, it's about accountability, it's about that you are responsible for your own success and the success of your family. So what do you do? How does this really mean anything? And I think the first step you have to really think about is, where do you want to go? What is it you're trying to achieve? What do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? You want to get a better job? Are you in a manual labor hot job right now and you'd rather not be in that? I'm not saying that if you're in that there's anything wrong with that. Some people are perfectly happy with that and they're good with it. And they'll do extremely well because they like what they do. They like, working in the heat and, or the cold or whatever. Do you want to make more money? I think everybody out there wants that. Again, it's not about getting rich. It's just, to some degree, you have to continue to make more money just to survive. Everything else is going up. If you continue to make the same amount of money, guess what? It's not going to work. At some point, you're going to reach you're going to bottom out. Do you want to be a better provider for yourself and for your family? Do you want to improve your relationship with your spouse or significant other? At some point, would you like to take a dream vacation? Maybe a trip to Europe or maybe a trip to California or who knows. Build a dream home. And again, the dream home doesn't have to be some mansion. Just a nice, comfortable home with a nice shop or a nice garden or a nice backyard, whatever your dream home is. Save for your children's education. This is a big one. A lot of people don't think about it. It's kind of like, well, my kids are 5 years old, or I don't even have kids yet. And I'll worry about that later. But I can tell you, it gets here quickly, and it is expensive. Do you want to retire with financial security? Would you like to even retire at an earlier age? Would you like to retire at 50 or 55 so that you can do your hobbies or maybe give back to the community or do volunteer work? The goal is to recession-proof your skill set, meaning if you develop all these habits and these ways of viewing things that we're going to talk about in these videos, you will get to the point where no matter what career you've chosen or what field you're in, these interpersonal skills and these soft skills, as we call them, they will transcend any fluctuation in the market or industry segment that you're in. One of the things that we're going to talk about in a later video is what's happening to the labor pool. If you provide a service and you provide a labor job, which to some degree all of us do, we go to work and we are not a product, we are not a technology, we are labor. Whether you're sitting behind a keyboard or in a ditch swinging a pickaxe or a sledgehammer or whatever, you're considered to be labor. Guess what the number one cost of doing business is for most companies out there? It's labor. So what are they trying to do to compete and survive? Lower the cost of labor. What does that mean? Lowering your pay. That's where we're headed. That's what's happening. So, what happens is if you're not constantly working to improve and move to the next level up, you're eventually going to find yourself in an uncompetitive situation in terms of your skill set, and you'll just have to take what you can get. And you'll be in those lower level jobs that continue to get squeezed out and replaced by technology and replaced by, outsourcing. I'm not saying I agree with any of it. I hate it. I'm just telling you that that's the reality of the situation that we're in. That's where we are. And yeah, we can talk about, well, the bigger thing to do is let's all rally together and go change the federal government. Great, let's do it. But we're going to do that next week. We're going to do it next year. How long will it take? Will it work? I'm not going to wait around, and I hope you won't either. So the execution, right? What do you actually do? Well, first of all, you got to accept responsibility that your success in the future is on you. You own it. You have to take those goals that you set out earlier and map those to your behavioral traits and the things that would keep you from achieving those goals. Again, relationship problems. If you have financial problems, how does that affect you in your career? What it means is you're stuck in a job. You can't make good decisions. You can't be in a leveraged position with your company because you need the job. You can't even take a chance. You can't take a risk of losing your job. And it's always going to hold you back. If you have the courage to stand up to management and take things forward, and help them be more aggressive, you're in a much more valuable position. But most people can't take that risk. We're yes men because we are so afraid of losing our job. We can't be without a paycheck for 1 minute. So you got to figure out what those weaknesses are, what's holding you back, what's going to keep you from achieving your goals, and you got to develop a plan for working on them. And it's a daily plan. You're working on that every day. You're analyzing the interactions and the conversations you have with everybody around you. you go meet with people, you go have a social event, you're interacting with people. What did I just say? That person kind of gave me a funny look. Did I make them mad? Did I upset them? Think about what you're saying and doing. And the bottom line is you can't compromise. We all have our hobbies and our lifestyle outside of work. And some people will say, well, that's just who I am. I'm not willing to compromise on that. I ride Harleys, as my hobby. So, corporate America is going to accept me as a Harley rider. No, they're not. You can't come in here with your leathers and your Harley boot and your boots and your hat on, show up at a social event for work with your personal hobby gear on. You'll be kicked out. You'll be outcast. And that's not to say that you hide who you are, but you're at work. You're socializing with professional people. You got to separate the two. Okay? And you can't compromise. People that say, well, this is who I am, this is what I do, and they're just going to have to take it or leave it. Well, they're just going to leave it. They're not going to take it, I promise you. They're going to pick somebody else. The job market and the labor pool out there is very vast. There's 10, 15, 20, 30 people lined up for every potential job that you have that would be willing to step in right now and do what you do. And probably do it better and work harder at it because they've been out of a job. They're more hungry. They're more aggressive. So, conclusion. Again, identify your weaknesses. Don't let the bad things that have happened to you in your life define your future. You got to let them go. I'm 40 years old. I work with people that are 40, 50, 60 years old and still struggle with things that happened to them when they were 10. And that's not to say that you don't forget them, because you can't. You will never forget those things, but you cannot let them define who you are today and hold you back. As we've been saying, accept personal responsibility for your success. So, what's next? Well, again, we're going to get back to the topics here, and the next topic is going to be focusing on yourself. And it's first of all, you got to accept that you own these things, and you got to make a conscious effort to try to learn and grow. And if you're sitting there watching this video going, well, he's not talking about me, I don't really have anything to work on, I've mastered all this stuff, more than likely you're the person that needs it the most. And when we get down to the segment on blind spots, as you see there, we'll talk about that, what that means and how that relates. And it's too bad that all these things can't be molded together and we couldn't take more time to get into these things in detail, because some of these topics they literally are 2, 3, 4, 5 week classes on these things. And we're going to try to get some meaningful information out of it in a 15 or 20 minute video. And I apologize. I know that in the first video I said we want to try to keep these to 5 minutes, but it's really just not possible and make it meaningful. So we're going to wrap it up. Any questions, comments, feel free to PM me, leave a comment below. One of the things I'm thinking about doing is on the next video series, also scheduling an appointment on Mumble that's 2 or 3 days later. And if anybody wants to get on and talk about these topics in detail and how do you actually do these things, how do you actually take them to the next level, we'll get on, we'll talk about it. And if you have ideas on your own, things that you've done that you've been successful with, many people replied to the first video and shared the successes that they've had. I'd love to hear that too. I think everybody can benefit and be inspired by what other people have done. So I'm thinking about doing that. If you're interested in that, you think that'd be beneficial, let me know in the comments on this video. And the next video, we'll do the video next Thursday. We'll wait 2 or 3 days to give people a chance to actually watch that video. And then maybe by Tuesday night of the following week, we'll schedule a Mumble session. And I'll pre-schedule it. It'll be part of that video, so you'll know once you see it, okay, we're going to get on Mumble on Tuesday night and talk about those topics. So, all right, that's it. That'll be it for this time. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you took something away from it. And get out there and get to it.